Why no one could explain the Dyatlov Pass deaths. February 1959. The Ural Mountains, a jagged spine of ice and rock tearing through the heart of Soviet Russia, held a promise of stark beauty and extreme challenge. 9 experienced ski hikers, led by the meticulous Igor Dyatlov, embarked on an ambitious expedition. Their goal, to conquer Ottorten, a peak known for its unforgiving ascent. What they found instead, or what found them, remains etched into the landscape of human dread, an unfathomable tragedy from which no plausible explanation has ever truly emerged. The group was an assembly of bright, capable individuals, students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, bound by shared passion and camaraderie. Their journey began with the typical optimism of youth and expertise. Photos from their initial stages depict beaming faces against a backdrop of endless snow, moments of shared laughter around crackling fires. Their last known communications chronicled the daily grind of deep snow and bitter cold, before they set up their final camp on the eastern slope of Khalat Syakhl, a local Mansi name chillingly translating to Dead Mountain. The date was February 1, 1959. Then silence. When the group failed to report back, a search party was dispatched. The discovery, weeks later, was a tableau of horror and profound mystery. Their tent was found abandoned, ripped violently open not from the outside, but from the asterisk inside asterisk. All their belongings, supplies, warm clothes, diaries lay untouched, as if the occupants had fled in an instant in extreme haste. Tracks in the snow, faint and quickly fading, indicated that they had departed on foot, many barefoot or in socks, into the sub-zero night. The first bodies were located nearly a mile away, beneath a lone cedar tree. 2 men, partially clothed, showed signs of a desperate struggle, with broken branches nearby. 3 more were found scattered between the cedar and the tent, positions suggesting they had been attempting to return. Months later, as the deep snows finally receded, the remaining 4 bodies emerged from a ravine, revealing the most gruesome and inexplicable injuries. The forensic evidence painted a chilling, contradictory picture. While hypothermia was officially cited as the cause of death for most, it failed to account for the deeper trauma. Several victims exhibited fractured skulls, broken ribs, and severe internal hemorrhages, injuries consistent with immense blunt force, akin to a car crash, yet with no external wounds. Most disturbingly, one woman, Lyudmila Dubinina, was found with her eyes missing and her tongue surgically excised. Another, Semyon Zolotaryov, had suffered severe chest trauma. Adding to the paradox, some victims were found nearly naked in temperatures plummeting to degrees C, while others wore layers of clothing, some belonging to deceased group members, suggesting a desperate, disordered redistribution. Traces of radiation were also found on several clothing items, an unexplained detail that deepened the confusion. The official Soviet investigation was swift, shrouded in secrecy, and ultimately unsatisfying. The case was closed with the vague conclusion that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force. Later, this was often attributed to an avalanche, a theory that defied the gentle slope of Khalat Syakhl, the absence of typical avalanche debris, and the nature of the tent's damage. The area remained cordoned off for years, fueling public disbelief and giving immediate rise to a host of alternative theories. Explanations for the Dyatlov Pass incident remain elusive, each failing to reconcile all the known facts. The avalanche theory, while the most accepted official line, cannot account for the tent being cut from the inside, the orderly footprints, or the severe internal injuries without external trauma. Military testing, perhaps involving secret weapons or infrasound, attempts to explain the radiation and the seemingly panic-induced flight, suggesting a cover-up by cleanup crews. Infrasound panic, proposing low-frequency sound waves caused disorientation, fear, and irrational behavior, offers a partial explanation for the sudden flight but struggles with the physical trauma. Paradoxical undressing explains some nudity and extreme hypothermia, but ignores the fatal injuries. Other more fringe theories, ranging from Mansi attacks, quickly debunked, cryptid encounters, to UFOs and strange orange spheres reported in the sky, only underscore the depth of the enigma. Even modern re-examinations, including a 2019-2020 reopening by Russian authorities and scientific simulations, have largely reverted to a form of avalanche or natural disaster, albeit a highly specific and unusual one. Yet no single hypothesis has ever fully integrated the disquieting ensemble of the ripped tent, the barefoot flight, the inexplicable internal injuries, the missing body parts, and the traces of radiation. The Dyatlov Pass incident endures as one of history's most compelling and disturbing unsolved mysteries. Its legacy is one of fear, of rampant speculation, and of questions that echo unanswered through the vast, cold silence of the Urals. It stands as a chilling testament to the terrifying power of the unknown and the profound fragility of human life when confronted by forces that defy all comprehension. The Dyatlov Pass incident endures as one of history's most compelling and disturbing unsolved mysteries. Its legacy is one of fear, of rampant speculation, and of questions that echo unanswered through the vast, cold silence of the Urals. It stands as a chilling testament to the terrifying power of the unknown and the profound fragility of human life when confronted by forces that defy all comprehension. Yet some mysteries, even those cloaked in the terrifying indifference of nature, bear the subtle, chilling imprint of human design. Detective Thorne understood this distinction better than most. 2 decades had passed since the first incident, a case that had long since congealed into the frigid permanence of a cold file, a lead weight in the back of his mind. He was a man carved from the city's harsh lines, grizzled not by age alone, but by the relentless abrasion of its underbelly. Now, a new sequence of deaths, replicating the grotesque precision of the old, had dragged him back into the abyss, demanding a re-examination of what had been declared an inexplicable tragedy. Deep within the precinct's forgotten archives, the air hung heavy and still, thick with the scent of aged paper and stale despair. Dust motes, like tiny, aimless spirits, danced in the anemic glow cast by a single, caged bulb, revealing towering shelves laden with decades of human misery. This was less a repository of records and more a crypt, holding the whispering ghosts of forgotten truths, each brittle page a silent scream, each lost detail a buried secret. Thorne moved with the weary grace of someone accustomed to navigating shadows, his eyes, sharp despite the fatigue etched around them, scanning the faded spines. The case file for the original victim was exactly as he remembered it, thin, unsatisfying, prematurely sealed. The initial investigation had been rushed, conclusive only in its inconclusiveness, attributing death to circumstances vaguely defined as unfortunate and unforeseeable. He opened the folder, the brittle paper sighing in protest. Photographs of the crime scene, rendered in stark, monochrome clarity, depicted a brutality that defied the official narrative. He systematically reviewed every document, every witness statement, every inventory sheet, searching for a dissonant note, a stray thread in the meticulously woven tapestry of official oblivion. It was on a minor inventory form, detailing the personal effects recovered from the first victim, a young woman whose memory now felt like a persistent ache, that Thorne found it. A single, incongruous detail, noted almost as an afterthought by a junior officer, and then inexplicably dismissed. Etched with meticulous care onto the underside of a small silver locket, a family heirloom, was a cryptic symbol. It was abstract, geometric, yet imbued with an unsettling, ancient quality. It wasn't overtly religious, nor did it appear to be a common gang insignia. It was, Thorne realized with a sudden, chilling clarity, profoundly out of place, a silent scream amidst the administrative silence. His gut clenched with an oppressive sense of a deliberate oversight. The symbol wasn't just missed. It felt like it was asterisk intended to be missed, a breadcrumb for a specific, very patient hunter. This wasn't mere negligence. This was an act of calculated concealment, pointing to a hidden agenda that had festered beneath the city's surface for decades. The very fact that such a crucial piece of evidence could be so easily dismissed, so expertly buried within the layers of bureaucracy, spoke volumes of a systemic rot permeating the official structures meant to protect and serve. The symbol, then, was not merely an anomaly, but the cipher, a key to unlock a past that the city had tried desperately to forget. Thorne felt a cold resolve crystallize within him. He returned to his desk, the fluorescent hum of the precinct now a distant drone. The symbol became his singular obsession. He cross-referenced it through every database available, then branched into more obscure channels. Ancient linguistics, forgotten occult texts, neglected municipal records, and the half-whispered urban legends that clung to the city's oldest districts. Slowly, painstakingly, a forgotten fragment of local history, once dismissed as mere folklore, began to coalesce into something darkly significant. What began as a grim puzzle was expanding, revealing the contours of a truth far more ancient and monstrous than he could ever have conceived, a truth that now forced him to confront the rot at the very soul of his city, and perhaps within himself. The abyss, it seemed, had only just begun to reveal its depth. The cryptic symbol, etched in the grimy ledger of a pawn shop and dimly recalled from a 2-decade-old forensic file, led Thorne to the ornate iron gates of the Obsidian Council, an institution as hushed as it was exclusive. It stood, a monolithic testament to old money and older secrets, nestled between two towering glass facades, a relic stubbornly refusing to yield to the city's relentless march toward modernity. Its stone exterior, perpetually shadowed, exuded a chill that seemed to penetrate the very air. Inside, the silence was absolute, save for the faint, almost imperceptible hum of the ventilation system and the distant, polite clinking of ice against crystal. Polished mahogany gleamed under recessed lighting, reflecting the muted tapestries that adorned the walls. The air, heavy and rich, carried the scent of aged leather and expensive tobacco. This was the city's gilded veneer, presented as a sanctuary, yet Thorne felt the serpentine roots of power entwined beneath the polished floorboards, feeding on secrets and fear. His arrival had been noted. A uniformed doorman, whose eyes held a depth Thorne found unsettling, had merely nodded, gesturing him through. No questions, no introductions. Within moments, a figure detached itself from a grouping of hushed conversations near a fireplace. Roland Finch, a man whose public face was one of civic responsibility and charitable donations, approached with a measured pace. His smile, though practiced, did not touch his eyes, which were the color of glacial ice. "Detective Thorne," Finch stated, his voice a low, perfectly modulated baritone that seemed to absorb all other sounds. "A surprising pleasure. We rarely see law enforcement darken our doors, unless, of course, it's for a particularly egregious parking infraction." The humor was thin, razor-sharp. "Is there something we can do for you?" Thorne met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm investigating a matter connected to a cold case. A symbol specifically. My inquiries led me here." Finch's smile remained fixed, but a subtle tremor in his left eyelid betrayed a fleeting tension. "A symbol? How quaint. Our establishment is rather old, detective. Many symbols adorn our walls, our crests. History, you understand." He gestured vaguely around the opulent room. "Perhaps you've mistaken us for an archive." The message was clear: stay away. Thorne felt the collective weight of the room's occupants, a silent assessment, a cold, calculated resistance. The conversations had not stopped, but their cadence had shifted, becoming even lower, the glances from the periphery more frequent. He was an anomaly, an irritant in their carefully constructed ecosystem. This case wasn't just unsolved, it was protected. Over the next few days, the initial subtle warnings transmuted into a more overt campaign. Key witnesses suddenly developed inexplicable memory lapses. Crucial digital files became corrupted. Even Thorne's own precinct computer developed a series of baffling malfunctions, erasing carefully compiled data. He was being tested, isolated, his investigation systematically derailed. The forces at play were unseen but deeply felt, pressing down with the weight of unseen generations. He knew he needed an advantage, a crack in the wall. It came, as often it does, from the periphery. A desperate, low-level informant known to Thorne only as Sparrow made contact through a secure burner line. Sparrow, a man whose life was a series of bad decisions punctuated by fleeting moments of terror, was at the brink. He met Thorne in the derelict shell of an abandoned brewery, the air thick with the smell of mildew and decay. Sparrow was visibly shaking, his eyes darting into every shadow. They know," Sparrow whispered, his voice hoarse, barely audible above the wind rattling the broken windows. "The symbol. It's a membership mark. Not just to the club Thorne. To something else." He fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a crumpled, stained photograph. It showed an old, faded drawing of the symbol, but beneath it, a series of names scrawled almost illegibly. "The Obsidian Council is just the front door. The real power, it's older. And deeper. They call themselves the architects. They control everything. The judge, the mayor, even the chief of police. They've been doing it for generations. This new thing, the murders, it's connected Thorne. It's part of their ritual. They need sacrifices. To keep the city quiet." Thorne stared at the fragmented names, some familiar, some chillingly so, etched into the faded paper. A vast, organized conspiracy, reaching into the highest echelons. The words hung in the cold, damp air, solidifying the terrifying truth. The abyss had only just begun to reveal its true, ancient depth. The rot, he now understood, was not just at the soul of his city. It was the very foundation upon which it had been built, protected by an insidious, powerful cult of silence. The fragmented names, a cold, elegant script of complicity, had confirmed it. The abyss, Thorne realized, was not a chasm he could merely peer into. It was the very ground beneath his feet, fissured and hollow. He'd stared at the list until the ink seemed to crawl, then folded it with deliberate precision. The papers crease a sharp punctuation mark against the city's omnipresent hum. A cryptic address, scribbled on a loose scrap beneath the larger ledger, had been his next, unavoidable destination. A derelict warehouse on the forgotten docks, its silhouette a jagged tooth against the indifferent sky. The journey was a descent into the city's skeletal remains. Pavement gave way to cracked asphalt. then to compacted dirt and gravel, the air growing thick with the scent of stagnant water and decaying industry. The warehouse, designated Pier 7, stood isolated, its windows like vacant eyes. The wind off the bay carried not just the tang of salt but a deeper, more unsettling chill, a premonition that settled deep in Thorne's bones. He bypassed the rusted main door, seeking a less conspicuous entry, finding it in a gap where a metal sheet had peeled back like scabbing skin. Inside, the air was stagnant, cold as a tombstone, yet layered with a cloying sweetness, metallic at its core, distinct from the dock's usual brine and rot. Thorne moved with the practiced stealth of a predator, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, illuminating dust motes dancing in the frigid air. The space was vast, mostly empty save for collapsed crates and a pervasive sense of abandonment. Then his beam found it. Not a criminal hideout, not a stash of contraband. In the center of the concrete floor, outlined by chalk-white residue, was a shallow, circular depression, crudely carved. Within it, stones were arranged, not haphazardly, but with a chilling, deliberate geometry. Macabre symbols, scratched onto the concrete and rendered in thick, dried residue on the stones themselves, depicted twisted figures, esoteric constellations, and what looked disturbingly like crude anatomical representations. The ritualistic arrangement was not complex, but its intent was disturbingly clear. And the offerings? They lay within the circle, not ancient relics but fresh asterisk. A cluster of freshly cut flowers, their petals already beginning to wilt, contrasted with the stark reality of the offerings beside them. A meticulously arranged spread of animal viscera, still glistening, its color too vibrant against the muted concrete. And then Thorne's gaze locked onto something else, partially concealed beneath a burlap cloth, a length of human hair, dark and fine, meticulously braided, tied with a black silk ribbon. The polished surface of society, he now understood, hadn't merely cracked, it had disintegrated. Beneath the veneer of order and progress, a grotesque, ancient machinery was indeed grinding, powered by beliefs so dark, so primal, they felt like a malignancy on the very fabric of existence. The scent of blood and decay, now unmistakably human in its undertone, seemed to solidify the horrifying truth. This wasn't just a conspiracy of power, but one rooted in human sacrifice. The personal cost of this descent was already mounting. His phone, which had buzzed fitfully in his pocket, now rang with a relentless, accusatory tone. A quick glance at the caller ID, his editor's office, a number he knew only too well. He let it ring, knowing the message it carried. His professional reputation, already tenuous, was now shredded, scattered like chaff in the wind. The silence that followed the unanswered call was louder than any accusation. And then a terse text message from a blocked number, a single devastating word, gone, his only remaining ally. Vanished. Thorne felt a cold, alien fear begin to bloom in his chest. The enemy wasn't just powerful, wasn't just insidious. It was inhumanly depraved, operating with a casual cruelty that defied modern comprehension. His own sanity, he felt, teetered on the edge, threatened by the sheer, overwhelming horror of what he was uncovering. As his gaze swept across the altar once more, he noticed a subtle disturbance. Wedged tightly between two of the larger, blood-stained stones, almost hidden by shadow, was a small, leather-bound book. He retrieved it, his fingers brushing against its worn cover. It was a diary, its pages filled with cramped, meticulous script. A chilling testament, Thorne knew, from one of the cult's disillusioned members, detailing their ceremonies, their rituals, their victims. And most damningly, in the flickering beam of his flashlight, a name, scrawled repeatedly on the initial pages, confirming a suspicion he had fiercely suppressed. A name he implicitly trusted. The last vestiges of his illusions of order, of a sane world, shattered, falling into the bottomless abyss.